I've been doing some other videos, different topics. The previous week, I was deep into facing the Fukushima disaster. I'm just taking in some nutrients and supplements right now, and some fresh, cold water, agua, which is source of life, spirit of life. The facility and the meltdowns at the Fukushima site, the Daiichi nuclear power plant, are contaminating the water there, and that's spreading out. And you know, when it spreads, they want to call it dilution, but that's not a solution. I want to remind everybody also that source of radiation or radioactive particles, pollution, is not just from this Fukushima crisis. It can be from any of the other plants, power plants. It can be from any of the nuclear weapons testing. Hold on a second, I gotta purify. Just constant purification. You gotta keep up with it. Purify. Cleanse. What possibly is going on with this situation is to separate the human race into two parts. The one part is going to do things spiritually and take physical steps, physical methods to empower themselves, and that's protecting against the radiation pollution. And then there's going to be another part of the human population which is going to do nothing. It's going to think everything's a joke, and they are probably going to be the ones that will suffer. Now, I'm hoping that none of my viewers are going to suffer, but I also know that the rule of the universe and our free will and our karma and reward and punishment is going to depend on what you actually do. And I'm also part of that. It applies to everybody. So that you cannot just escape from this without taking action. You need to have a stance on this. And like I said, there's some steps that you can take. Just start with something. Get yourself a good source of water. Use it wisely. Conserve it. Protect that source. You know, put a spell on it. Put prayers on it. And that's just the first basic thing. Should be doing that anyhow, not just to protect from radiation. Protect from radiation, protect your water source, protect your food sources, protect where you get your supplements from. You know, there's different companies. 2 days ago I did that video on the bentonite type clay. It's not exactly bentonite. I took that in and wow, it's really powerful. It does have an effect on the body right away. And you don't need to drink it. You can apply it to areas. You can, you know, different areas, your skin, and that also can remove things. You can, you know, if people do clay masks all the time, so this is a more special one, I guess. And the price is really not that high. It's about average, or seems like below average price for these types of clays. But what I want to do here, because I've got your attention and you hear me, I'm on an even keel, I'm giving you like potent knowledge, stuff that you can really use. And here I am, it's just, there's no special effects, you know, I don't start off my video with some like, you know, computer graphics, and I don't do that. In fact, let me take off the glasses. Alright? Yeah, see my eyes, you know, I'm genuine, I'm telling you the truth. Let's talk about the facility. Let's go and try to visualize and understand what's going on with that facility. I don't know everything, but I'm going to try to tell you what I know and just make it simple in layman's terms. Okay? Now, number one, the facility was not strong. Being built by the coastline, it's already vulnerable. But they did it there for convenience, and not only you know, being close to the coastline for the cooling of the facility. That also happens to be a fault line. So coastline, fault line. Wow, you know who would have thought of doing such a thing? Okay, it's one mistake after the other. It's compounded, and now they're saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." That's not good enough. The facility is such a way that there's multiple reactors. The generators are all pumping out the electric power to the grid, so they have the whole system like that. When it was damaged, you had the you had the buildings damaged. You had all the components, you know, damaged or separated. And the most important part are the reactor cores. Okay? That's where the actual splitting of the atoms is going on. This creates enormous, almost unimaginable heat. This is then harnessed and turned into motion. Spinning creates electricity. Metallic configuration around the magnetic field. I'm not going to go into a whole lesson about electricity and such, but when all the components got damaged and the core is compromised, the core is the most dangerous part. Not only that, but the old core, because they take the rods out. See, the core is a series of rods, and they're about this circumference, and they're long, and they are composed of the refined uranium, and what happens with the reaction that they go through, it becomes something like you know, like plutonium. Plutonium is very unstable. You know, you're going from like 235 to 238 to the plutonium, and it gets to what they've called MOX fuel. MOX fuel in these spent fuel rods or used fuel rods, that they're radioactive, and they're going to be radioactive for hundreds of years, thousands of years, unless something is done to them. We don't happen to have the science or the technology today to do anything with them, so that they will continue in this process of being radioactive, unstable, and the bottom line is they're dangerous. They will kill all life that comes into contact with them. These are heavy metal radioactivity emitting radiation energy to the extent of gamma rays. You will be killed within instants. An instant. Minutes. Not even. You're dead. You melt. You fry. You bleed out. Instantly. You would a million times over rather be dying of a gunshot wound than to die that way. It practically will melt your soul. I'm just putting it into layman's terms, as best as I can try to understand what this is. Now, the facilities are damaged, they're collapsed, the roofs have been blown out, not that they really had a strong, solid roof to begin with, because what they do is they remove the rods and they store them up above. And this is that they can be more accessible. You just bring it there, and you know, the movement of it is minimized, and it's just this, you know, take them out of the core kind of thing. Well, these are called the fuel pools, because they're supposed to be in this container or reservoir that is cooling them, because they're getting hot. And if they get too hot, they ignite. It's something like a radioactive fire. It's not like a wood fire, because a wood fire can be extinguished. You can suffocate it so that they can't get any air, and the flames will be put out, and then eventually the heat will go down and it will be extinguished. You can use water, it will cool it. You can use different things. They have some chemicals that they use for flame retardants. These fires can be put out. You can stomp on it. Just taking physical force and hitting it can actually put out fire. If you've been a fire watcher like I have, out in camping expeditions and types of you know, activities like that. So I know fire. I've had many fires. I'm not a pyro. I keep my fires pretty small. I've only been known to do several bonfires, and I always limit it, because there are people around them, make it bigger, throw everything on, throw the house on it. I'm like, no, just calm down, okay? You only need like a few foot, you know, flame. You don't need a freaking 12, 15 foot flame. I'm always there to like be the voice of reason. I guess I'm kind of like a father figure. So I moderate, and I know how to contain it. And when it needs to be put out, extinguished, done, goodbye. But what I'm trying to tell you people is that a radioactive fire is not easy. It's not even possible to put it out. Try and wrap your head around that, because that's what we're looking at. Now, if you think I'm coming on here to fearmonger, you think I'm coming on here to spew out some kind of paranoia, then you go right ahead. Maybe you'll be one of those people that doesn't do anything. You won't take any action, no caution, no prevention. Take your chances. All I'm saying is I review the information, I've done research, I'm looking at multiple sources, and it's all pointing to one thing. If that facility gets any more destabilized, and this is the word, destabilization, that means if it collapses anymore, if the fuel rods shuffle around, if they knock into each other, if they fall down, even the mainstream media will be forced to talk about the new breaking news, a worldwide disaster. 2.5 years later, 3 years later, or whenever it happens from the initial catastrophe, they're going to talk about it, they're going to announce it to billions of people. It is going to be an extinction level event. We're already on the brink of that. I tend to believe that gradually, relatively slowly, we are into an extinction level process. You know, it's not like a day-long process and all of a sudden everybody knows that they're dropping dead. This is a very gradual process that started with the leakage of 2.5 years of the water that is contaminated from these collapsed facilities around the reactor cores. There's 3 of them, and then there's 3 more. 3 that seem to be more stable than the other ones. But the worst 3 are in meltdown. That means they take extra care, extra cooling. They are extra radioactive. They are melting down. Melting down means that the reaction in them cannot be stopped. But it has to be mitigated to a certain point. I think the first person on YouTube, you can look this up. You know, I might not have talked about this every day for 2.5 years, but I was the first person that said very clearly the facility needs to be entombed. Call it dumping, call it burying, whatever word you want to use for the action, but a structure needs to be thrown completely around the entire facility. A thick, impenetrable structure, like a mountain. Build a solid mountain around it. I said this March 12th, 2011. We are now more than 2.5 years later. I said that, and nobody has done it yet. Japan hasn't. No other countries, no other entities have stepped in. No one has done it. If I was in charge, my friends, I would have made sure that it was done. Now I'm catching up to speed to tell you in layman's terms this is still what's going on and this still has to be done. We don't have a better solution. This is the only solution. And they are not even applying the only solution. They're not. The only thing they did was build the real lame seawall so that the water can get flushed out of it and not mix directly in with the seawater, but it's leaking out of that anyhow. It's overtopping it. It's leaking underneath. It has some kind of seepage through compromised piping that's there. It doesn't matter about all the details. The fact is that it's not functional. But this is what they've done. Remember the video that I did that actually got quickly got over 1,000 views? I don't know what it's on now. That's barely anything. It should have gotten 1 million views. I was losing my mind because I was taking all the information in, I'm processing it, I'm thinking, is it that bad? Is it not so bad? Is it that bad? You know, so I'm weighing out everything to see where it's at. Like, you know, what's my assessment of it? I'm still freaking out. I'm still losing my mind. You have to panic, folks. Take in the information and panic. Like, seriously, panic. Show that you're alive. Show that you're human. We are slowly getting poisoned already. The planet, the life on it, is slowly getting poisoned. Wake up. This is the worst kind of pollution possible. It's said that everyone has some particle of Chernobyl that has encountered them. It's said that it's going all around the planet. It's said that we have all encountered that. Our systems have somehow harmonized with it because we have an immune system, but if not, it's made us ill, sick, diseased. Many people have died from it. Conservative estimates have said since 1986, and the onset of the real fatalities kicking in 5 years later from 1990, 1991 onwards, amount to over 1 million deaths. Possibly more. And that's just the humans. Now, if that's not high enough for you to be concerned with a disaster that's actually much worse than Chernobyl, Chernobyl 1986, Fukushima 2011 till now, is not contained. At least with Chernobyl, the Soviet Russians decided to face what was going on and deal with it. In this case, it doesn't seem like the Japanese are really taking care of this. They've just come to the point now where they're saying, we lied, we were in denial, and we have an emergency. And as I said before, let this sink in. Let the panic ensue in you. They're saying to you, people, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, sayonara, sananara, domo arigato. We're going to die. This is not good. And if we don't die, we're going to suffer. Maybe we would rather die. It's no way to live, being diseased, cancerous, like all that. Now, the worst case scenario, but also one of the possible things that my sources, well, not my sources, but available sources are claiming. And take this with a grain of salt, because I am still analyzing all of this and thinking, like, what is that? Is that for real? Apparently, one of the reactors is seriously unstable, and that if something were to crack or collapse, or if it's another earthquake or wind, from hurricane, or if the ground underneath it gets loosened up, or they say it's turning into quicksand, then fire could break out. Also, another worst case scenario, well, they're all tied in together, is that the spent fuel rod pool could collapse, because the structure that it's in is just so completely ridiculous. They don't have a way, or they haven't tried to go in and to stabilize it or to rebuild it, put scaffolding around it. And now my latest information comes from Tom Hartman on RT. Now, I take it with a grain of salt. He was interviewing again one of his expert contacts from Beyond Nuclear, who I happen to give a lot of respect to. And this organization it's a watchdog, and they have their member, I think his name is Kevin Camps. I could be wrong, you double check on that, but he's from Beyond Nuclear, and he is saying that they're turning the facility into quicksand because of the backwash of the water that they're not letting into the sea, or they can't put it anywhere, and it's saturating the ground, and it has nowhere to go. So this saturated water near the surface is mixing in with the aquifer, and it's loosening everything up. It has nowhere to go, and so the radioactivity is getting into all this water, into the surrounding area. And you know, not only it's going to undermine the foundations of the remaining structure, it's also carrying the contaminated water down into the aquifer quicker, and then it's going to build up somewhere else, wherever it channels underneath the land. It's going to build up heat and pressure, and it will blow out eventually, like a pressure cooker. I mean, how can I explain this stuff? I mean, we're looking at ongoing, worsening disaster, and I can't seem to get my head around it. That you know, if they're making this up, they're crazy, insane paranoids. But if it's true, oh my God, you know, we all need to face this. I don't think that Japanese, the officials, the TEPCO, and all this and that. But listen, I don't want to blame the Japanese, because nuclear power is being used all over the place, and the original designs was General Electric Design, which is a U.S.-based corporation. U.S. originally created that. Maybe now it's a multinational, and people over in areas like New York and Hudson River, remember the PCBs that were dumped in there? The Hudson was filthy, disgusting. It launched a movement of activism that was so incredible and touched so many lives and showed so much care. Pete Seeger was one of the leaders of that. You know Pete Seeger. They did the Clearwater, was a sloop, a type of sailboat, patrolling that, and why the waters had to be polluted. This was from General Electric, which was in denial for a decade or more. You know, this is from their industry. This is from their electrical components. This is from their, you know, capitalism and their greed. All these particles, like I talked about in my other video, the quality of air, water, food, you know, the soil, the planet itself, our home. We have to look for this quality. We have to upkeep the quality. We have to demand the quality. Companies like General Electric and all of them, and they are lobbyists. That is a private-public link, a public-private connection between these corporations that are making these faulty systems just for the money. And they are interconnected with the government, who is approving them and protecting them. And there's a government agency now called the NRC. And why do you think the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is not doing anything about this? They're not alerting us. They don't have a plan. You know, even though certain politicians, like a senator, has gone over there to Japan, maybe multiple ones. Didn't hear all of it, but they have come and voiced concern to their constituents and to the rest of their fellow politicians and whatever body, the Senate and Congress, other agencies, but it just stops. They'll say, "Oh, I'm concerned. We know something's going on," but then all of a sudden, "Oh, wait, you know, we really can't do anything because the NRC says no, it's really not a concern. You know, they're just squelching out everything. They're just oppressing it, and they're covering up. They don't want us to know." Do you know why they don't want us to know? It's very logical. Okay, conspiracy is very easy to understand, because they don't want anyone to know. If they say Fukushima is bad, if they admit to it, then they have to admit to the fact that GE designed it. They have to admit to the fact that there's over a dozen of the same exact facilities in the continental United States. You must understand what I just said. If you are an American, if you are in North America, you must understand what I just said. Any one of these aging facilities, which are made according to the same design of the Fukushima site, the Daiichi nuclear power plant facility, all of these sites, you look it up, check out a map and see if you're close to one of these. Any one of them can get into the same state. Any one of them. At any time. And in fact, it's inevitable. And the NRC is not going to do anything about it, because if they admit that they have to do something about Fukushima in Japan, then they're basically saying, well, we've got all these things in the United States also, and they're not going to be able to handle it. They don't want to. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to be guilty. I mean, how much more evil and denial and lies and corruption do you think is going to come out of the United States system? And these greedy demons, how much more can you just imagine if you've already seen with Japan, the lies, TEPCO, all the officials, goes all the way to the head of state there, the executive, the president, and their prime minister. All in denial. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, nothing. Oh, no, 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 no. It's okay. It's not a problem. Oh, no, no, no. But now, 2.5 years later, emergency, emergency, emergency. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sayonara. Sayonara, everybody. Sayonara. Time for harikari. I think I've said enough. And I love you people for listening. This was chock full of an explanation that I did the best that I can to put it into layman's terms with just enough passion to tell you that we have to start panicking. Do it in your own way. Do it with everybody around you so that we make people aware. And I'm praying that the worst case scenario doesn't happen. But I don't believe that prayer alone can solve this. I don't believe that prayer alone will make it go away. Wishful thinking. I believe that physical plans of attack using machinery, science, and like a definite, like incredible plan to solve this is required, and that is much more than prayer. We will add the prayer to that, but where is that plan? What can I do? I'm talking now. I've talked. I can talk until I'm blue in the face and I'm losing my mind. People, I need your help. We need to support each other and say we're going to get to the next level, and there's going to be a plan before this freaking thing catches on radioactive fire. It's not going to be able to put out. It's not like that. I've already explained it. Just pray first. Now that we've talked and now that we've understood this, pray and continue to pray, and I will try to come up with solutions of plans. I'm working on it, and I also want you to pray that I can get through, because I'm really onto something right now. It's going to take a while, but I want to do something. I can't just stand by and hope that somebody else is going to solve it. Draco, are you going to clean up the Fukushima yet? He had a hard day. He worked the whole day cleaning up radiation.